Welcome everyone to Peak Life Design, the 3 things that are preventing you from living the life you truly desire and how to fix them now. I'm your coach for this training, Dr. Leonora Rhodes. So welcome everyone. Really want to thank you for sharing your very precious time, energy, and attention with me. Before we get started, I'd encourage you to grab some paper and pen. You're going to want to take notes on this call. So go and grab those now and come back as quickly as you can. So let us begin with one of my favorite quotes. Life is a song, sing it. Life is a game, play it. Life is a challenge, meet it. Life is a dream, realize it. Life is a sacrifice, offer it. Life is love, enjoy it. And this is by Sai Baba. I have a few questions for you. The first is, do you ever think, why am I not enjoying my life fully? Or maybe you sometimes think, am I stuck living this life forever? Or do you ever feel that the years roll by fast and wonder, why do other people achieve their dreams? Why not me? If you answered yes to any of those questions, you are in the right place, because today you are going to learn that it doesn't have to be that way. This webinar is for you if you are no longer willing to settle for an ordinary, mundane, boring, mediocre life. It's for you if you know there is more you could be doing, more you could be feeling, more you could be experiencing, more you could be contributing. It's for you if you know that life is short and precious and you are determined to make the best of your life. And this webinar is for you if you feel frustrated with yourself that you are not fulfilling your full potential. This is not for you. And if you answer yes to these questions, I would encourage you to turn off the presentation now, because this webinar really isn't for you. So a few things: if you're not open to change, if you blame others for your shortcomings, other people and other circumstances. It's also not for you if you want a quick fix. This is not a magic wand. This is not something that you can just click your fingers and change. It's going to require some work. So if you're not willing to put in any work, then this webinar is not for you. So this is a journaling question rather than a rhetorical question. And I want you to write down the answer. So what would your life be like if you had achieved everything you set out to achieve? And here I mean the kind of bigger things. What if you had started the business that you said that you were going to do? What if you had finished studying the course that you were going to do? Those things that one day you wanted to achieve them, but you abandoned them. So what would your life be like if you had achieved all of those big things you set out to achieve? Wonderful. So hopefully you've got some answers for that. The next question I'd encourage you to journal is, what have been the costs of not achieving your goals and dreams so far? What does it cost you? What have been the consequences? Just take a few seconds to write down the costs. Wonderful. Next question. Are you willing to pay this price for the rest of your life? And this could be a simple yes or no. And if the answer is yes, that's just fine. There's no judgment here. But if the answer is no, then you need to keep on listening. So before we go any further, I'd love to tell you a little bit about me and why I'm doing this free webinar. So my name is Dr. Leonora Rhodes, and I began my career many years ago as a physician in the UK. I trained as a hospital physician, then as a general practitioner, then then a public health doctor, and then a developmental or community pediatrician working with kids with special needs. And I'm also trained as a neurotherapist and as a coach. And I have a few different coaching qualifications. I'm trained in traditional life coaching, strategic intervention coaching, and marriage therapy, brain health coaching, and mental fitness. And I also worked for a period of my life as a coach for Tony Robbins, the world famous life coach and life strategist. I'm also a trainer. I've been doing corporate wellness trainings for many years. And when I worked for Tony Robbins, I also worked as a business results trainer. I'm an author. I have a few different books out there. I'm a medical writer and editor and a course creator, including several courses of my own and also some courses for Harvard Health. My favorite of those was how to improve your cognitive health as you age. But who I am really at my core is a health advocate. I am somebody who believes that mental and physical health and well-being are basic human rights. And I've believed this since I was 12 years old. When I was 12, at school, we had to do a debate project. And I was doing some research back then, and back then research meant books and reading articles, paper articles, and I did some research on health inequalities, and it shocked me what I found. I realized there were millions, if not billions, of people in the world who didn't have access to healthcare and to information that could help them stay healthy. And it really bothered me. And it led me into deciding at the age of 12 that I was going to become a doctor, which I was very blessed to get into medical school and complete it, and then work for several years as a physician in the UK. And it's also what led me to do the neurotherapy and coaching as well. So that's a little bit about my background, but why I'm doing this. I worked for Tony Robbins for a period of time. I was very happy. It had been my dream job for 8 years, and the training to become a Tony Robbins coach is pretty grueling. And I was lucky enough to get through that training and get picked as one of his coaches. And I loved it. It was amazing. We got so much training. We got amazing clients. I got to work literally with hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands and thousands of hours of coaching. It really was brilliant. And I loved doing it. And had it not been for the event that I'm about to tell you about, I may have been still doing that now, because I did truly love it. No regrets whatsoever. So November 2020, I caught COVID at a party, and I developed double pneumonia. And this was me on the day that I finally admitted that I needed to go into hospital. And I spent 4 or 5 hours in the ER, and the doctor basically, I said to him, I used to be a physician. Please talk to me, doctor to doctor. What should I do? And he said to me, if we admit you, I'll be really honest, but your chances of leaving alive are pretty low. This was back when, unfortunately, the medical profession didn't really know how to treat this illness. And so he said, go home. And if you can, wait it out, see how you go, call 911 if you need to come back in. And so I went home, and I had the worst night of my life. Every part of my body hurt. I had a really high fever. I was struggling to breathe. Even to take the shallowest of breaths was agony. I felt like my lungs were on fire. It was the most horrible feeling. My oxygen levels were dipping down to 85. I had one of those pulse oximeters at home, and I had a really high fever. And there were times when, I knew my brain was not working well. It was horrible. And so that night, I thought I might die. And I did a lot of thinking that night. I didn't sleep a wink that night. And I thought about all the things I was grateful for: my lovely family, my good health up until that point, my beautiful home, my interesting career, and so on. I had so many blessings. And then I got to thinking about what I would do if I was gifted more days, more years of life. And I remembered that since the age of 12, I'd wanted to help people improve their health and happiness. And at this time, I felt that working as a corporate coach was not really fulfilling this big life ambition of mine. And so I decided, I kind of made a pact with the universe and decided that if I was gifted more days, that I would return to my original kind of life course of improving the lives of people through giving them access to quality health information. And yeah, so that was kind of what happened that night. And I had this kind of crazy moment. I was clearly still delirious at the time, where I said, okay, if I live, I am going to be on a mission to improve the lives of 1 million people. And I told my husband about it next door, and he still teases me about that big audacious goal. But I believe in aiming high, so that's why I'm doing this. So before we go any further, I just want to make sure that you are in a good state to continue with the rest of the call. And let's do a quick mindful moment. So just sit comfortably for a moment and place both feet flat on the floor. It helps with energy movement in the body. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes. You can keep them open if you like, and take your right hand and place it on the area of your heart. And focus for a moment on your breath. Feel your hand rise and fall as you breathe in and out. And now I want you to think of something or someone in your life that you are grateful for. Think about this person or this thing and feel the sense of gratitude in your heart, your body, and your mind. Savor this feeling for a moment. On the count of 3, gently open your eyes, shake it out, rub your hands together to create some heat. Wonderful. So welcome back. Hope that was helpful. So today we're going to talk about the 3 things that are preventing you from living the life you truly desire. Thing 1, you are running old, outdated scripts for your life. Thing 2, you lack a clear vision of the life you want to live. And thing 3, you don't have a strategy for creating lasting change. So thing 1, you are running old, outdated scripts for your life. Now, you have changed. I have changed. We all have changed. And you're meant to. We are meant to change, evolve as the years go by. And some of these changes may be positive, some negative, and some neutral. Now, the problem is that you are often running old scripts for your life, old programming that may have worked well in the past, but no longer serves you today. And it's a bit like if a butterfly were to act, behave, think as if they were still a caterpillar. So here is a testimonial from one of the clients I have worked with on improving their life. This is Lisa, who was a lawyer from London in the UK. And she said, I realized one day that I had totally lost my sense of identity. I was unhappy and unhealthy. I didn't know what I wanted, and I didn't know how to change. I was totally stuck. Leonora helped me discover the woman I had become, and I really liked her. This allowed me to see a future that excited and inspired me. So Lisa's story before we started working together was that she was a 47-year-old lawyer married with teen children. She'd been suffering from low-grade stress for a long period of time. This was during COVID. She had gone from working in an office to remote work, and she found that initially it was great working from home, not having to, not having to get dressed apart from on your top half, and being able to wear, pajamas and slippers. And she loved it at the beginning, but soon became to hate it. She was working longer hours than normal, rarely taking any breaks because everything just kind of, went into one. And she hadn't taken a vacation for several months. And she feared that the workload would be even worse if she took a vacation and then came back. So she just didn't want to risk that. So she attended one of my webinars, just like you are today, and she realized that she was suffering from chronic low-grade stress. That drip, drip, drip kind of stress that leads to you feeling kind of low energy and not enjoying life. She had previously really enjoyed her life, but now she felt exhausted. She had stopped seeing friends and she wasn't exercising. She'd previously been a rower and she was eating takeout food, already prepared food most nights because she just couldn't be bothered to cook after the long work day. She was feeling unhappy, unhealthy, unfulfilled, lonely, and stuck. So Lisa and I worked together to discover her new identity, and we evaluated her life. And she found that she was unhappy with most areas of her life at the time, and she didn't really know who she was. So we made a plan that strategized self-care, wellness, and fun. She developed a morning and end of day routine rituals that included meditation, yoga, and rowing in the afternoon. She decided that to demarcate the workday from her evening, she would row for 10 minutes at the very least to re-energize herself before starting her evening. And that was, if you took one habit, that was the one that had the biggest impact. She discovered that close to where she lived, this was as things were opening up in the world again, that because she lived near the River Thames, there was a dragon boat racing center that was really close to her. And so she joined a dragon boat team, and she still races to this day. And she made lots of new friends doing that. She also decided that she needed to connect with old friends, and a really good way to do that was to plan weekends away where, the whole family could go and they could hike and have outdoor adventures. There were still restrictions at the time. So that made a huge difference. And she told me that she was enjoying work and life again, that her energy had returned, and she was feeling really hopeful about the future. And it's funny, I follow Lisa on social media, and it's been very interesting to watch the changes in her social media postings over the last few years. It's been very interesting. She's clearly enjoying life a lot more now. So solution one is to do a deep dive evaluation of who you are and your life. So you want to think about things like, who are you? What are your roles in life? What do you see yourself as? What do you value? What are your strengths and weaknesses, your passions? What do you hate? What do you love? What motivates you? And you also want to evaluate the different aspects of your life, the different parts of your life, what's working well and what could do with some work. And the different areas of life that we often consider are things like physical health, mental health, career, finances, relationships, growth, contribution, things like that. So you need to have a look at those, figure out what is working, what do I like about myself, what do I like about my life, and you can keep those things. And then when you figure out the things that you don't like any longer, you have some clues as to where you should start your transformation. So quick exercise. This is actually part of a much longer exercise where I'm going to give you like the best question. So I want you to imagine for a moment that you have a magic wand. And with this magic wand, you can change anything in your life. Now, the caveat is it has to be realistic. You're not going to choose something that is like, I want to appear on the moon in the next 3 seconds. That would be a bit of a waste of your magic wand wish. So what would you change if you could change one thing in your life right now? Wonderful. So, thing two that is preventing you from living your best life is that you lack a clear vision of the life that you really want to live. You wouldn't believe how many times people come to me for coaching and they say, I don't really like my life and something has to change, but they really have no idea of what. Um, and I want you to think back for a moment to when you were a kid. When you were a kid, you probably were a big dreamer. You probably, if you're a girl, you may have dreamt about being a princess or some other female, hero type of thing. And as a boy, you probably dreamed of being, a superhero or something like that. But then you also had dreams that were about the life that you would live in the future, what job you might want to do, where you might want to visit in the world, the things that you might want to do in your life. And I love this quote from Carl Sandburg: nothing happens unless we first dream. And I think many of us adults have often forgotten how to dream like that, to dream big. Life has kind of disappointed us so many times that we just give up on dreaming. And I'm going to encourage you to start dreaming again. It's super important and fun as well. So I want to tell you a quick story about another client that I worked with. This is Catherine, who was a data analytics director from New York. Catherine said, working with Coach Leonora was truly a gift. I knew that I was going through the motions of career and raising kids and not truly living. She gave me the toolkit to start taking a more active role in creating a more meaningful life. So Catherine was a 38-year-old data analytics director, and she was commuting in from the suburbs. She was married with two young kids, and before COVID had happened, she was a runner, and she was running 10K every morning. She was obsessed with it, and she didn't want to give it up because it was keeping her sane. And she said that life was just crazy busy. They were understaffed at work and there were unsupportive leaders. She worked for a company that had been great, and then it was acquired by a bigger company. And she described the new work environment, which had been going on. She tolerated it for 4 years, but it was getting worse day on day, as being a toxic work environment. And some of the people who worked there, who she'd previously been friends with, had really been affected by this toxic work environment, and they changed. And she was having almost daily migraines. She was sometimes forgetting to eat, and she'd lost weight, and she was taking anti-anxiety medication, which didn't really help her. And she felt that she was failing as a leader. She previously had been very happy with her leadership skills, but the toxic environment just prevented her from being able to do that. And she felt that she had no energy in the evenings to enjoy life. That was when she, on the rare evenings when she wasn't working until midnight. And she used to feel a sense of dread on a Sunday morning at the thought of having to go to work on Monday. And I don't know if you've ever felt that, but it's the worst feeling. I felt it when I was a general practitioner in the UK. I would wake up Sunday morning, and for a moment I'd feel okay, and then I'd think, I've got to go to work tomorrow, and I would start to feel sick and I get a headache, and the day would be filled with dread. It's a horrible, horrible feeling. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. She was feeling resentful, disillusioned, and demotivated. And when we worked together, she was burnt out and about to quit. She went to her boss and kind of told him. She still had a reasonably good relationship with him. And he said to her, please take 4 weeks off and rest and recuperate, so that you can make a decision not from a burnt out state. So we worked together on her vision, and what she wanted was to feel more in control of her life, less stress, more peace, more joy, and being able to kind of enjoy spending time with her family again. She wanted to improve her health and get her energy back. She wanted to enjoy work again and feel like a good leader. And, during the course of us kind of creating her future vision, she decided that she was going to take a career break, which might become permanent, but she was going to wait for 6 months to do it because she was about to get a really big bonus for having been at the company for a number of years. And that was really going to help her, make the decision from a position of financial security. And so we, one of the things we worked on was, how do I cope with the next 6 months until I can take a break? So, and she also decided that she wanted to enjoy life more. She was actually earning quite a lot of money, but she wasn't really able to enjoy it. And she was afraid to take vacations, and she hadn't taken a vacation of more than a couple of days since the company had been acquired. And she wanted to travel more and experience more new fun and things, more experience more new fun things. And it's interesting, I had a call with her a couple of weeks ago, and she said that she had been really anxious to tell her boss that she was taking her family away to Disney for a prolonged Easter break. And she expected her boss to be really angry and kind of say, you can't do that, the team, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I'm so pleased to hear that. Good for you. Go and enjoy it. So that was kind of the bulk of the work that we've done so far. We are still working together now. So solution 2 is to envision the life you want to be living. So I have a question for you. What is one thing you absolutely must do this year, in the coming year ahead, in 2023? What is something that you must do in the next 10 years? And what is something that you absolutely must do in your lifetime? If you don't do these things, you're going to regret them. So what are those 3 things? Wonderful. I just realized I kind of skipped over a little bit of content here, so I'm going back. So how do we envision the life that you want to be living? Well, here there is a need for a big dose of realism. Like I said, you don't want to imagine in 3 seconds I'm going to click my fingers and end up on the moon. That's just silly. So you want to be realistic. Your life situation, what is possible, but I want you to push yourself to dream a little bit bigger than you have been. So think about, what would living your best life look like? What would it look like day to day? What would your life look like if you were living your full potential? If you were to avoid the regrets that you don't want to happen in your life, what would your life look like then? And there's a great book that, I fully confess, I've never read the book. I've just read the summary of it, called 5 Regrets of the Dying. One of the regrets is that I wish I had realized I had the power to be happy more of the time. That regret always breaks my heart, because to realize that at the end of your life, that I could have been having more fun, I could have been enjoying my life more, is such a shame when you can't do it anymore. So realize that now. Life is for living, life is for enjoying, life is for having fun. You also want to think about the different areas of your life. I mentioned some of them earlier. What do you want those to look like? Next, you want to think about who, in order to create this life you're envisioning, who do you need to become? What does your new personality need to look like? And then you want to get fully committed and figure out what motivates you, because I promise you, there are days that life is going to become lifey and get in the way, and it's going to be tough. And you need to be able to tap into those things that motivate you on those days. Otherwise, you're going to give up on your dreams again. Okay, so on to thing 3. Thing three is that you don't have a strategy for creating lasting change. And it's funny. I often think about this, and we are not taught this, or at least most of us are not taught this. Certainly not in school. If you're trained as a coach, then you may have been taught this, but we're not taught how to, create lasting change in our life, and that's a great shame. I love this quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. It takes as much energy to wish as it does to plan. So anytime you're spending daydreaming, thinking about the life that you want to be living, you could be harnessing that time and energy into actually planning what you want to change. So Janet is a CFO from Connecticut, lives locally to me in the US. And Janet said, Leonora provided space and content to thoroughly prompt an exploration of future opportunities. I felt confident that I left with a solid plan and the motivation to do the work. So Janet's story before, CFO of a pretty big company, 45 years old, living in Connecticut, and she had a very long commute into the city. I don't know if you know this area, but her commute was well over an hour each way. And what she would do is she'd usually kind of sleep or work on her commute, and she was pretty exhausted. She had 3 kids, and her husband didn't work and stayed at home with the kids. And she had a career break when her kids were little, but they had a lot of health problems, and one of them had nearly died. And when her oldest son was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 5, she was also diagnosed with ADHD. With all of the health problems with her kids, she had become very hypervigilant, and that means like an abnormal level of anxiety and worrying about things going wrong. And she had an insomnia. On a good night, she would sleep 6 hours, but most nights she would be sleeping about 3 hours a night. And that's really, really harmful to the brain and the whole body and to life. And she was also having panic attacks at work and at home. And at work, she felt she was often falling out with people. And the year prior to us starting to work together, she'd been hospitalized twice for abdominal bleeds. And the diagnosis, they'd looked for kind of underlying causes. And the diagnosis that came up was with chronic stress. And she felt that when she was with her family, she wasn't really able to be present with them because she was so burnt out, and she was feeling hopeless, scared of dying, and felt very trapped in her current situation. So with Janet, we evaluated and envisioned the life that she wanted to be living. And then we went through the personal development planning process. And the important word here is personal. I don't believe in cookie cutter approaches to creating the change that you want to create in your life. You are a completely unique individual, and what's going to work for you is not going to be the same as what works for another person. And so in that planning process, we ask lots and lots of questions, and we developed a plan to optimize her commute. Decided that on the commute into work that she would work, and on the commute on the way home she would do a bit of mindfulness practice when she first got on the train, especially if she was feeling very stressed. And then she would do things that were kind of vaguely fun, like watch Netflix, or she enjoyed doing crossword puzzles. We also worked on getting her body and brain healthy because, as I said, she'd had some pretty serious stress-related medical problems the year before. We also worked on improving relationships with her family, and we worked on developing mental resilience. So, as I mentioned, solution 3 is to plan. So, having evaluated where you are in life, who you are, and then envisioned a future, you need to come up with a process to make the envisioned future happen. And this is personalized, as I mentioned. This involves things like turning the problems in your life and defining them as a problem that can be solved. Next, brainstorming. What are all of the possible solutions? And when I brainstorm with clients, I say to them, I don't want any filter here. Tell me all of the things you think of, including the stupid things, because there's some information to be got from the stupid things as well. Like, why is that such a stupid idea? And then you also need to figure out what has worked for you in the past and what hasn't. And you need to tap into your higher sense of purpose behind why you want to make these changes in your life, and be really honest with yourself about your level of commitment. If your level of commitment is low, as soon as life gets lifey, you might give up on your goal, on your dream. And we also do a bit of work on preempting the things that might get in the way. I believe often if you can identify the potential challenges, you can do things to mitigate for them and reduce the chances of them ever happening. And next comes defining goals and mapping out action steps and setting a timeline for when that action is going to happen. And last but not least, this kind of falls into planning, is if you can learn to become a peak performer, whatever it is that you want to do, you're going to achieve it faster and with less mistakes than you ever thought possible. And I'm an impatient person. I like to achieve things quickly. I don't want to be wasting years or months even. I want to get to my goals quickly. I'm going to bring you back for a second to a couple of questions I asked you earlier. What are the consequences of you not achieving your dreams and goals? What are the consequences? Have you thought of any new ones? Next question, are you willing to continue to pay the price for not living the life that you truly desire, the life that you deserve? Are you willing to pay that cost going forward? And if you are, that's great. You are doing it intentionally. What we want to avoid is living life, letting life run you rather than running your life intentionally. So my next question is, how committed are you? Like I said, life gets lifey sometimes, difficult things happen. And in order to make especially big, audacious goals happen, you need to be very, very committed. And there are things that you can do to increase your level of commitment. Give it a score out of 10. I'm a big fan of scores out of 10. So give it a score out of 10. 10 would be, I'm extremely committed to doing everything within my power. And a 1 would be, nah, can't be bothered. So what is your score? So I promised that I was going to teach you 3 things. Thing 1, you're running outdated scripts for your life, and the solution is to evaluate your life and your identity. Thing 2, you lack a clear vision of the life you want to live. The solution is to envision with as much detail as possible the life that you want to create. Thing 3, you don't have a strategy for creating lasting change, and the solution is a personalized plan. So how did I do? Hopefully I covered all of those points well. So here's the real opportunity. When you learn to overcome these 3 things, you will learn to love your life again, or maybe even to learn to live your life for the first time. You will also become excited about your future and all of the wonderful opportunities ahead, because there are always wonderful opportunities if you know where to look for them. The good news is that instead of having to run off to an expensive retreat, and there are retreats out there, there are some amazing retreats out there. I'm not taking anything away from them, but some of them are super expensive. The average retreat starts off, $5,000 type of thing. And they are amazing. I've attended some retreats like that, truly amazing, but they're expensive. They're not for everybody. Or you don't have to attend an immersive event in a huge stadium with 10,000 other sweaty strangers. and you also don't have to numb your mind with booze, food, or Netflix. And the latter 2, I've been very guilty of numbing my mind with those on many occasions in the past. thankfully, and I now acknowledge I used to be a food addict, and I'm no longer a food addict, but I'm still a Netflix and a social media addict. So full confession there. The good news is that instead of having to run off to an expensive retreat, 4-day immersion, or having to numb your mind without ever fixing the root cause of why you're not really happy and fulfilled, I can show you a new way to intentionally create and live your life, your peak life. And it's not about whether you already have a dream life. You probably wouldn't, if you had the most perfect life in the world, you probably wouldn't be on this call. What it's about is your desire to learn to live differently, because you know that life is extremely precious and you have huge untapped potential, and that you deserve to be living your best life. And what you need to win the battle against living a mediocre, unhappy, unfulfilling life is the right plan, the right systems, and the right help, or the right support. And I believe that I can help you with all of those things. So what now? You have 2 choices, and both are completely fine. You can click away and forget everything I've just told you, or remember some of the snippets and implement them. That's just fine too. But if you do that, you are likely to return to your old results and your old life. Like I mentioned earlier, if you want to do that with intention, yes, I'm returning to my old life, go ahead. That's absolutely fine if it's an intentional decision. But if you really want things to be different and to change your life, then here is how I can help. So I want to introduce you to my new course called Peak Life Design. This course kind of began, it was my baby over 2 years ago, and it used to be called Life by Design. And it was a good course, but it had some faults, and I also didn't love the name. So I have changed the name of the course, and I have improved it beyond recognition. So I think, I love it more, and I hope you're going to love it more too. So Peak Life Design is how to create the life you really want to be living in as little as 4 weeks. And like I've mentioned, you can settle for an ordinary, mediocre life, or you can create an extraordinary life. And that's what this course will help you do. So how does it work? It's a 4-week immersive online program. And so there are 4 modules. A module is released every week, and you can study it at your own leisure. Now, the good news is that you will have lifetime access to these recordings. I've had clients with the original course where they took it at the time, and then something's happened in their life and they need to reevaluate, and they've gone back and taken the course again. So you have lifetime access to the recordings. I wanted to do things a little bit differently from what I'm seeing most other people doing. The idea, and I picked 28 days because I wanted to run the course of a month. And so each cohort begins on the first of the month. So the first videos will be released on the first of the month, and you will study in your own time, at your own leisure, when you can, during each of the 4 weeks. There is also, and this part is optional, 4 30-minute group live coaching calls. And these are on Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern time. They are recorded, but then edited, because they're question and answer. And so the only bit that other people will have access to is the answers. I'll give the context of the question, but then the answers, so that you can kind of go and see the questions that other people have asked. But if you can, those live, you'll get the opportunity to be coached by me on those live coaching calls. And there's also a private online community where you can share your journey with other people. And I've been doing this food addiction program called Bright Line Eating. Highly recommend it if you have any problems with addiction. And it's been great. It's a neuroscience-based course, just like I love. But the most powerful thing about it has been the online community. And so I want to create an online community like that, where you can feel part of a community of other people on a similar journey. You're just going to have to trust me. It's unbelievably powerful. Now, there are only 12 spaces every month. And the early adopter pricing, this is launching in April 2023. So my thank you to you for showing up today and listening to this first webinar leading to the first time I'm running this course is the early adopter price of 400. After this month, the price will be 597, which was the price of the old course. If any of you watching are existing coaching clients of mine in a coaching package right now, then you get access to Peak Life Design for free as a thank you for working with me. So what is covered in the course? Week 1 is about evaluating who you are, your life, and what drives you. Week 2, envisioning that powerful vision for the life you want to be creating. Week 3 is planning, getting strategic and intentional about the process. Don't worry, I make it fun. It's not boring at all. And week 4 is to empower and execute yourself. Up until very recently, learning about peak performance was reserved for top athletes, CEOs, A-list actors, people like that. I believe that everybody should have access to how to become a peak performer in the things that really matter to you, because that way you will make progress faster than you ever thought possible. And I'm impatient, and I suspect you probably are too. So who is this course for? You must be committed to change. You must be open to new ways of thinking. You must be willing to take responsibility for your actions and your results, and you must be determined to succeed. If you answer absolutely not to any of these questions, this course is not for you. And I'll be really honest with you. There are probably other courses out there for you, but this course is only for these people here. So that's enough for me. If you are ready for change, you've got to act quickly. Applications close 30th of March at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. That's the East Coast of the USA. And here's how to register. Go to peaklifedesign.com. And here's the QR code. If you're watching on a computer and you have a phone handy, here is the QR code. So you can easily go to the website and register. So I want to thank you, a huge thank you to the people who've shown up live on this call. Thank you for your precious time and showing up. And to those of you who requested the recording, thank you also. I hope this has been really, really useful. I'm going to stop the recording now, and I'm going to open up for questions. So I'll say a quick goodbye now. Bye for now, and take care. And I hope to see you soon.